Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
We on?
Sorry, go ahead. Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order, the joint meeting of the Minnehaha County Commission and the Sioux Falls City Council. We'll go ahead and start. I'll note that the Minnehaha County Commission has a quorum.
Clerk, please read the roll for the Sioux Falls City Council, please.
Councilmember Staley? Here. Brecky? Here. Erickson?
Here.
Kylie?
Here.
Neitzel?
Here.
Selberg?
Here.
Sale? Star?
Here.
All right, quorum is present for the city as well.
Thank you. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd entertain a motion on the county side for the approval of the irregular agenda. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Ask for a motion from the city council to approve the regular agenda.
Move to approve.
Second, Brecky.
All right, motion by Kylie, seconded by Brecky. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzel?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Star?
Yes. All right, that passes 7-0.
All right, that takes us to agenda item number 4, which is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number MCPD 19-02 to Chapter 159.240, Planned Development Districts, to allow retail sales and trade, wholesale, personal services, communication facilities, and warehousing in sub-area F of the Perry Planned Development District on the property legally described as Track 1, X lots 1 and 2, Jeans Addition, Northeast Quarter, Southeast Quarter, all in Section 28, T101 North, R48 West. The Planning Commission recommended approval 5-0. Good morning, Kevin Hookman.
Evening, Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. As you were just told there, this is a major amendment to a plan development. The plan development is the Perry Plan Development, and it's located along South Dakota Highway 11 and 42, where they run together. The sub-area that is being amended or requested for amendment is sub-area F, which is located at the intersection of the two highways at the southwest intersection. The petitioner, Brent Driscoll, has applied to allow new uses in the sub-area to expand the typical types of commercial uses to include the store or the wholesale, trade, professional services, communication facilities, and warehousing, provided there's no storage of regulated substance and the building contains 10,000 square feet or less in area. To look at the site a little bit, the site being that it is along the highway and narrow, possibly could have some access issues, but overall at the intersection of corners like this are generally encouraged to be commercial properties. Looking further on the site there, down the intersection, looking to the west, it is a busy intersection, and this is looking north. To the north of the property is a residential subdivision buffered by another corner lot that is to be commercial or possibly commercial at some other time. Bring it back to the map. The allowed uses in the area right now are typically commercial uses. This is just an expansion of the commercial. And as stated, the joint County Planning Commission and the Joint City Planning Commission did hear this at the May 20th meeting, and it was recommended for approval by the Planning Commissions. So is there any questions?
I don't see anybody raising their hand. Is there anybody here in the audience that would like to ask any questions or make any comments about this? If there aren't any questions by any of the council members or commissioners, I guess I'd look to entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve this change, and I guess I would make a comment also.
Second.
A motion and a second. Commissioner Barth?
Mr. Driscoll has really worked hard to make this project palatable to his neighbors and stuff, and I really appreciate the work he's done.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Hiberger,
Aye.
Barth,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, I'd look for a similar motion on the council side, please.
Move approval?
Second, Brecky.
All right, motion approved by Selberg and seconded by Erickson. Any discussion, council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Staley? Yes. Brecky?
Yes.
Erickson? Yes. Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
All right, that passes 7-0.
All right, so the motion passes on both sides. That takes us to agenda item 5. And we have the 2018 Museum Enterprise Fund report by Bill Hoskins, Director of the Siouxland Heritage Museum. Good evening, Bill. I guess it is evening, not morning, like I said to Kevin.
Actually, it's afternoon.
Good afternoon. Bill Hoskins, Director of Siouxland Heritage Museums. I'm here today to talk about the Siouxland Heritage Museum's Enterprise Fund. The Museum Special Enterprise Fund was established in 1995 through a joint resolution from the city and the county. It requires an annual report to be filed by the 1st of April each year. And it was set up to receive revenues and account for expenses associated with the rental of space in the museum system, sponsorships, and the provision of programs, events, and services for which a fee is charged. The fund is part of the museum's overall budget. It's becoming more and more important all the time. It is administered by Minnehaha County like all the museum budgets. Annual budgets are developed by the staff, presented to the museum board, who recommend them to the city and county for approval in the joint budget hearing that's coming up in August. The fund currently is where all of our grants, donations, sponsorships are accounted for. Let's see if I'm moving the right way. No. In 2018, our expenses exceeded revenue by quite a bit. Our income was $161,000. Our expenses $244,000. That was by design. That was an intended process. Our income sources, and I should back up. One of the reasons it was intended was we had basically been trying to stockpile money for use in the Museum Resource Center, buying shelving, moving expenses, and so on. And I'll talk a little more about that in a minute. Our income sources basically come in 98 from our endowments. There are 2 endowments we receive funds from. One is the Doc and Florence Brown endowment, which is a small amount, about $1,200 a year that goes for educational programming. The other is the Siouxland Heritage Museum's endowment. Revenue, I think, was $50,000 in 1998 from that endowment. We've been working hard to grow that endowment, and in fact, it's grown by about 30% over the last 3 years. The Museum Alliance is a 501c3 friends group. They, from time to time, will make direct cash donations for specific things, such as the concert series that we do. They're a major sponsor. They write a check to help support that program. Educational programming fees. For some of our programs, we charge a fee. For instance, today we're having Pioneer Day Camp out at Beaver Creek Nature Area. We charge $30 per child for participation in that day-long camp. Exhibit fees, that is if we do exhibits for outside entities. We've done work for the city of Deadwood. We've done work for the state of South Dakota, different entities. It will show up in this report. It's all accounted for in the enterprise fund. Rentals is the rental of space at the old courthouse museum, the courtroom, the law library. We had about 75 rentals last year. About 6,000 people roughly participated in those rentals. Donation box, we have donation boxes at the courthouse, at the Pettigrew. That's cash that's just given by the public. Grants, last year we had a couple grants. One was from the Daughters of the American Revolution for shelving for the new Museum Resource Center. Our expenses on the other side were spent for education, our educational program. That was about 7% of what was spent in the fund. Our exhibits program, about 6%. Collections management, 8%. Rentals, we have all expenses associated with the provision of rentals are accounted for in the enterprise fund, and payroll refers to, we have 2 full-time positions that are paid in part by the enterprise fund. And the Museum Resource Center, last year about 37% of our expenses in this fund were towards buying additional shelving, collection supplies for the new Museum Resource Center. This is the enterprise fund balance. This is a snapshot balance once a year on the 31st of December. We have quite a bit of ebb and flow in and out of the fund, but that gives you an idea. It was pretty big, pretty high in 2017. That was purposeful that we worked up to that. Within the enterprise fund, we have what we called our obligated funds, and that refers to anytime we get a grant from a granting organization, a sponsorship, those dollars are put aside specifically for the purpose for which they're raised. And the obligated funds is just an accounting within the enterprise fund, so we can track those specific donor dollars and be able to give a report back. For instance, the Daughters of the American Revolution, we have a grant we're operating there. To get the payment, we need to produce a report that details all our expenses on the project, the actual project. And that's what I just explained. Highlights for 2018. A third of all the labor costs were paid for by the enterprise fund for the exhibits assistant and events coordinator position. All the labor and expenses associated with the rental of space at the old courthouse museum are accounted for in this fund. 100% of all our education programming expenses were paid for by the enterprise fund. 100% of our artifact conservation costs. Last year we conserved a 1890s cutter that belonged to the John Tudhill family, a local lumber baron. That was all paid for with enterprise fund dollars. All the museum staff training is now paid for out of the enterprise fund. Collection supplies, also exhibit materials. And in 2018, about 37% of our expenses were at the Museum Resource Center, $91,000 in total. The enterprise fund is really a great tool that you've given the museum to help operate, and
it's one that we increasingly try to lean on and really work with to help lessen the burden of museums on the taxpayer. Any questions?
Any questions? Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions about this report? Seeing none, thank you very much. That was just a report, so there's no action required. So that takes us to public input. If there's anybody here who would like to speak about something that was not on the agenda, could come forward and identify themselves and give their address, please. Good evening.
Hi, I am Stephen Siano. I have complained repeatedly about my treatment by city entities, county entities, as well as others, pursuant to an attack on me for my beliefs and my disability, essentially. And last week, I spoke before the city council, and the summary of what I said was only that I spoke about the VA and my disability, but not about my complaints against the city entities involved in the discrimination against me for my beliefs and my disability that I felt. Even if I'm incorrect in it, it looks like the facts are being suppressed. We don't have transparency. Far from it. And consent to the governed, for us to have that, the public must be informed. They have a right to see my letters, my emails. They have a right to have a proper assessment, a proper summary of what what the point of my discussion last week actually was, as well as others. This should all be public information, right there on the internet, should be. And we shouldn't have to fight for it. We shouldn't have to keep coming here at difficulty to ourselves. No accommodations been made for my physical or mental disabilities, of which I have both at this point, including extending my time, possibly allowing me, questioning me, if there's anybody has any questions. Now, I understand not questioning me might be argued to imply assent. You know, silence equals assent, legally speaking. I was, once again, declared and confirmed with disabled since '78, with PTSD in 2003, and in 2004 with naval records. I tried to push the VA to accept it. They refused me access. I wound up going to everyone I could. I tried to get medical help from the local clinic, city county clinic, and that was limited because I felt that they also were discriminating. They gave me basic, and they are continuing to give me levothyroxine, especially is important. I see that there's a lot of people in public positions that are taking money and not doing their job. And if somebody gets a grant or whatever the city and county give these people, like Southeastern Behavioral Health Care, the housing, and they don't do their job, I think you people have the power to purse string. You could take their money from them. You could put a lien on it. You have attorneys to do this. If you know that they are acting out of accord with their responsibilities to the public, myself included. As I said, I was informed that there was a theft by deception, and I'm going to, I figure, have to go to the U.S. Treasury again, and the Secretary of the VA, and the Inspectors General. I intend on trying again to get them to prosecute this, but it's also on a local level. There are local entities involved, and covering it up constitutes misprision of felony. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here today who'd like to speak about something that's not on the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn on the county side.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Motion adjourned from the city.
So moved, Erickson.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
All right, the meeting is adjourned.